3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Sports Shift with me, Ian Marquez. Today we'll be recapping all the NFL action from the past weekend. So welcome back to the Week 12 recap. It was a typical weekend, most of the games are pretty predictable. We did have one or two upsets and exciting games. So let's take a look at some scores. Starting off with a Thursday night game, we had the Steelers traveling to Cleveland. And what started out as a normal evening game, it was pretty cold. It then turned into a huge amount of snow. Jameis Winston was loving it. It was a back and forth game. But as at the second half, when the teams came out and the snow started to come down, the Browns kept to it. Jameis kept throwing. I know he did throw a pick, but other than that, they kept fighting, and eventually he got the touchdown with his legs. It was a well-deserved win for the Browns. They fought it out, and after all that hard work the Steelers did to overcome the Ravens, they let it go a week later to a divisional opponent. That's NFL for you, man. Next matchup, we have Tennessee traveling to Houston. And one of the bigger surprises of the weekend, Tennessee overcoming Houston after an impressive performance in Dallas, controlling the game and dominating the Texans. Houston fell to a divisional opponent at home, and while they are in control of the division, any chances of a high seed are now pretty much gone, and they now do have to watch their backs as the Colts can start to put pressure on them. Next up, we have the Vikings, another divisional game. Vikings traveling to Chicago. Chicago with a tough loss last time out to Green Bay. Could they overcome the Vikings this time? The answer is no. Although Caleb Williams did try his best, he made some really big plays. He's trying to save his coach's job right now, basically. The Vikings held on. Another well-rounded performance for the Vikings. Sam Darnold doing his thing, doing just enough as usual. Jordan Addison with an important touchdown this week. Justin Jefferson, he's willing to take all the pressure and let the other receivers get theirs. TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison had a great game. So the Bears basically, they fought hard. They sent it to overtime, and then they went 3-0. A couple questionable decisions like Caleb Williams in overtime, and Sam Darnold marched on the field to kick the winning field goal. And the Vikings maintain the pressure on the Lions. Another divisional game, theme of the weekend, we have Cowboys traveling to Washington. And as usual with all Washington games, this game had an exciting finish. The Cowboys were up big against Washington. However, late in the game, Washington hit a huge touchdown. Jaden Daniels to Terry McLaurin for a huge touchdown late in the game. But they missed the extra point and were unable to tie it. And then, when they tried the onside kick, Dallas took it straight to the house. Turpin is so fast, man. So after all that pressure, Washington dropped to the Cowboys and now fall 2 games behind the Eagles. And they have a lot of work to do if they're going to try and win the division. It seems pretty unlikely from here. They definitely have to beat the Eagles when they replay them in the coming weeks, and hope that the Eagles drop some games starting with next week to the Ravens. A very big win for currently very depressed Dallas Nation. Not too much to change their season, but at least it will lift spirits a little bit, So, New England traveling to sunny Miami. And as expected, with a healthy Miami side, 34-15, a pretty dominant win for the Dolphins. All the receivers except Tyreek Hill getting touchdowns. And when Tua's healthy, man, they look really good. Can they go on that run to get that wild card? Guess we'll see. Kansas City Chiefs back out after that loss to the Bills, looking to get back to winning ways. And it was a lot closer than you might expect. 30-27. Panthers tied it late on, but the Chiefs found a way to march on the field and kick the winning field goal. the Chiefs never make it easy, but they do find a way, and they do get the wins, but they always play down to the opposition, man. It's actually really crazy. Look for another close game against the Raiders this weekend. So now we have the Buccaneers taking on the Giants. Buccaneers back after their bye. Giants with a new starter in town and Danny DeVito. Daniel Jones currently unemployed. And Buccaneers cruising to a 30-7 victory. Giants are just in complete shambles, tied for the worst record in the NFL with 2-9 record. Could possibly get in the number 1 pick. I guess we'll see where they go from here, but it doesn't look good for the Giants. Next, your Lions continuing to roll against the Colts. Lions maintaining that win streak. Still have the number 1 seed in the NFC, a 24-6 win. Once more, a well-rounded game. No touchdowns for the opponent. They're just playing some amazing American football. It doesn't look like anyone can stop them, and they're just grinding out victories. I say grinding is pretty calm, pretty comfortable for them. They're just chopping out wins, and they keep the ball rolling. The Vikings are putting pressure on them, but the Lions don't look like they're gonna slip up. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos in another divisional game as they travel to Las Vegas. These new and improved Broncos, I don't know what's happened to them, but they've turned the corner, and Bo Nix looks really good, man. Another well-rounded performance for him. Broncos 29-19 to the Raiders. And they're quietly putting their name in the hat for that wild card spot, man. They're winning the games in front of them. They're beating who they have to beat. And when it comes down to the end of it, who knows? Now we have a very big divisional game, as this division, NFC West, is so tight, so close. We have the Cardinals versus the Seahawks. Well, in a low-scoring game, which is not usually what we get in this division, we have the Seahawks winning it 16-6. The Cardinals just couldn't get going on offense. It was a very cagey game that the Seahawks managed to win late on. Both these teams are now level on records, with the Rams and the Niners below them, as they both dropped games this weekend. As mentioned, San Francisco traveled to Green Bay, a very depleted San Francisco side, and it was evident in the scoreline, 38-10. No Brock Purdy, so many injuries for the Niners. Can they get back healthy in time to win some games and either get a wildcard seed or win the division? And one of the best games of the weekend, we had the Eagles traveling to LA, and the consensus was clear. Saquon Barkley is a contender for MVP. Another dominant display by the Eagles, 37-20. Second half, Saquon, man, he's unstoppable. Once he comes out of the change room, just be feared. It's like, I think he's averaging about 7 yards a carry in the second half, which is insane. He just keeps putting up these touchdowns. A record-setting game. I know he regretted throwing the ball to the fans, but at least they saw who it was, and I'm sure they'll get back that ball for him. But Saquon is just in fine form. He's on pace to crush the regular season record, and Eagles continue their win streak, man. One game behind the Lions, putting pressure on the number 1 seed. They look really good. Can't wait for that matchup with the Ravens this weekend. Speaking of, we have Battle of the Harbaugh brothers. John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens versus Jim and the LA Chargers. What a matchup this was set to be. Both teams playing great American football. Chargers coming off a huge win against the Bengals. Meanwhile, Ravens coming off a tough loss against the Steelers. Well, once more, John continued his win streak over his brother, a 30-23 win. And John now moves to 3-0 against his brother. The Ravens started a little tricky and it was a little slow. They were shooting themselves in the foot with their penalties, making it unable to move the football, but they came out in the second half of the plan, started to take control with Derrick Henry running the ball, and then Lamar Jackson doing his thing. Derrick Henry, Justice Hill with some TDs, and Mark Andrews with an amazing TD. The Chargers still look really good. This is a minor setback. I still think they're going to comfortably get a wildcard seed. But Ravens, after dropping that game to the Steelers, they get it right back the next week. and I still think they're in prime position to win that division. So let's look at our picks for this week. Straight up, we went a miserable 8-5, and we had a few surprises with the likes of the Texans losing at home to the Titans. We had a depleted Niners team. I thought they would have been a little bit healthier. I knew Brock Purdy was questionable. We ended up not playing against Green Bay, so Green Bay took care of business there. The other surprises involved the Cardinals only putting up 6 points against the Seahawks. I know they're on the road, but at least the offense was clicking, man. I'm very surprised about that. Then we had Washington missing their opportunity to tie the game, and then Dallas take a very rare win for them this season. We also have the Steelers on Thursday night in that snow game. Browns were making snow angels in the end zone. They were having so much fun in that snow, man. It was crazy. But 8-5, not great this week. We're going 16-0, man. We're going to predict every game this weekend. I'm very confident. And we're going all green this week. Speaking of green, our TD parlay was a miserable 1 or 2. You can always count on Saquon, but CMC and that depleted Niners side, not surprised. And Tyreek Hill. Everybody else gets a touchdown except Hill. Like, come on. Cheetah, do something for me, man. Guess we try again next week. It's always next week. Our money line parlay, well, yeah, we were a bit disappointed by the Texans. Niners, we always knew would have been a tough one to win. Didn't realize they would have been this depleted, this injured, this banged up. But it is what it is. You heard it here first. We're going all green this week. 3 TDs. 4 teams winning straight up. And straight up, we're going to predict every game. Easy. So what was the upset of the week? Well, after a hard-fought win where they wanted everyone to take them seriously, the Baltimore Ravens got defeated by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And people were like, okay, the Steelers might be a contender. The Steelers are a really good team. They might win the division. What did they do the next game? They dropped to the 2-8, well now 3-8 Cleveland Browns. This game was suited perfectly to the Steelers, run the ball, put pressure on the quarterback. But the Browns persevered. As mentioned before, these divisional games are in the AFC North. These divisional games are always crazy, always challenging, always so close. And the Browns came out victorious this week. So our upset of the week is 100% Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. 3-8. Not really any chance of making the playoffs this season, but it's always great to beat a divisional opponent. The Browns love to beat the Steelers. They always find a way to upset these teams. You know, they upset the Bengals before, and it was a well-deserved victory. They weren't lucky or anything. They fought for it, and it was a well-deserved victory. So congrats to the Browns. Steelers, wake up, man. So who is the worst team in the league? Well, there are currently 3 teams with a 2-9 record. In the AFC, these include the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Las Vegas Raiders. I know they've had some trouble at quarterback, both teams. I'm really sure of where they're going. Jacksonville coming off a decent season last season with a playoff win and faltering this season. Trevor Lawrence now coming back and starting to practice. Vegas, very unsure what they're doing. I'm not sure if Aiden McConnell's a guy. Gardner Minshew is also hurt now. So where do they go from here? But the worst team in the league for me is reserved to the one team in the NFC with a 2-9 record. The New York Giants. Why? Well, let's just look at it from the offseason. I know a lot of videos are surfacing of he said how bad he'll feel if Saquon goes to the Eagles. Saquon went. They decided to keep Daniel Jones over Saquon and pay Daniel Jones. Where's Daniel Jones now? There's just no positive coming from that New York camp right now. Everywhere you look, it's no direction, no idea where the franchise is going, what do they do now. It's hard to be a New York Giants fan. I know that because my brother is one. Shocking franchise right now, man. What do the Giants do? Where do the Giants go from here? I'd say do they blow it up, but there's nothing to blow up really. Like, I saw a quote this weekend about the Giants played really well, but they weren't playing in New York. That's the likes of Saquon. Cameron Zane lost a really good corner who played really well this week, and that GM, how is he keeping his job, man? Because he's making some strange decisions. So now that that's out of the way, who's the best team in the league? Well, in the AFC, a convincing performance against a very tough opponent. It's got to be the Baltimore Ravens. Once more, putting pressure on the Steelers. Steelers have a very rough schedule, so I'd say Ravens are favored to win the division once more. It was a convincing performance. I know sometimes they hinder themselves with the penalties. They get so much penalties that always set back the chains and make it difficult to be effective running the ball, like they rely so much on Derrick Henry to do. But once they stay out their own way, it's an easy game. Lamar Jackson is just unstoppable. That combination with Derrick Henry. Then you have so much depth in the likes of Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Justice Hill running back. There's just so many options, and it's such a ruthless team. So well rounded. I know there was no Roquan Smith this week. He was injured and they still found a way. A very big win for the Ravens, a much needed win. And right now, I say they're the best team in the AFC. NFC, do we even need to bother discussing this? I'll just say the same thing every week until someone changes my mind. It's the Detroit Lions. They're in possession of the number 1 seed with a 10-1 record. They're winning games easily, convincingly. When they're down and struggling, they're finding ways, they're using grit. Everybody on the team is pitching in, whether it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Jared Goff. On the defensive end, they come away with so many picks. It's just such a well-rounded team, and until someone knocks them off, they're still a Super Bowl contender, man. So that's going to cover everything for this episode. Another great weekend of NFL action. Feel free to check out another one of my videos. Otherwise, see you guys later.